Welcome to Real Demers, where we champion the B-sides, the offbeat, and the overlooked. Greg and I have worked in and around Hollywood, so we know just how hard it is to get a movie made. This is our space to celebrate cinematic misfits we hope you'll enjoy as much as we do. Today, we've got three massive 007 fans on mic for an epic discussion of the iconic character. So strap in and rev up your Aston Martin DBS V12 as we champion an overlooked entry in Daniel Craig's Bond catalog, Quantum of Solace. I'm one of your hosts, Andre Sanglade, and with me is...
I'm Greg Bellavia.
And today we're really excited to have our first guest on the podcast. He is a stunt driver whose credits include 911 Lone Star, The Rookie, and most recently Crime 101, starring Chris Hemsworth. He also happens to be my brother-in-law and a really cool guy. Please welcome Ross Scharphorn to the podcast.
Welcome, Ross.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Like I said, we're all massive Bond fans. Greg and I have been talking about covering one of the films for a very long time, so I'm really looking forward to getting into it with you both. Ross, what was your introduction to the world of 007 and made you a fan?
It was the Pierce Brosnan movies. I saw GoldenEye in the theater, but it kind of got lost in the mix in 1995. As you guys would agree, that was an amazing year for movies. And I'm not going to lie, it was dwarfed by Die Hard with a Vengeance and Batman Forever and stuff like that for me. So it was on my radar and I was impressed by it, but I didn't truly become a fan until Tomorrow Never Dies, because Tomorrow Never Dies came out and I go, wait, this is a sequel? And my dad kind of looked at me and he goes, you know, there's like 20 of these movies, right? And I'm like, no. And so I ran to Blockbuster and I asked my buddy Mikey Pierce, I said, what Bond movie should I watch first? And he goes, Live and Let Die. just random, because he liked the voodoo or something. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just jump in the middle. And I watched it and I was like, there's no way this old movie is going to like hold my attention or have as good an action as a modern movie. And it fully did. And it kind of like put me on my heels. And I go, okay, I need to do this right. I need to go watch it from the first movie, chronological order, watch the whole. And it just kept getting better. I became a lifelong fan after that first marathon of all the movies.
Anytime you want to pepper in like the fact that you've met Jane Seymour or anything, go ahead, Ross.
I mean, yeah, dude. Jane Seymour, I was a chauffeur and I got to chauffeur her from one of the Oscar parties that Elton John puts on one year. And I needed to drive her back to buy Pepperdine University. She was talking with me and I locked eyes with her in the rearview mirror. And I was just like, and I got lost in her different color eyes, nailed a pothole and blew the tire on her car. And so I had to furiously like change the tire really fast and drive her out on a spare tire all the way the hell out to Malibu. And the cool part is though, she rewarded me with a signed photo of her as Solitaire from Live and Let Die.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that story. Greg, what made you a fan?
You know, it's the 80s. There's this thing called video stores, and my parents wanted to check out a new one in Irondequoit, which was pretty close to Webster where I grew up. And we went in and my dad's like, you know, it'd be a good movie for a 6-year-old to watch. Goldfinger. Perfect. So we watched Goldfinger and I loved it. And at that point, it was so new and they're trying to arrange it. There was a James Bond section. So I'd go in and I'd pick up the box and in the back, they would have like what number it was. So I'd be like, okay, number what? And I went through the chronology, you know, starting with Dr. No all the way through. And then up to, at that point, Living Daylights was coming out. And I was like, well, we're going to go see Living Daylights, right? I remember my parents being like, well, the reviews aren't great. And I'm like, what do you even say? Like, I have a little kid. I don't care. So I'm like, let's go. So we went to see that in the theater. I love that. And then I have a fond memory of seeing License to Kill with my cousins at the ripe old age of 8 years old. So I'm not sure I should have been watching all that stuff, but I was weaned on James Bond as a kid. So lifelong fan.
Yes.
I love
That's
it.
Awesome.
I love it. That's amazing. I'm trying to figure out the first time I saw License to Kill. I might have been around the same age.
Oh.
To me, James Bond is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. I've been a fan for as long as I can remember. My earliest memories of watching movies at home included Bond films. I was a fan through my dad. He discovered 007 at the theater in his hometown of Guayama, Puerto Rico. He saw Dr. No and it blew his mind. And he's been a fan ever since. Goldfinger, like Greg, was my introduction, and to a little kid's brain, it hit all the right vibes. We owned all the Connery films on VHS. Yes, Ross, including Never Say Never Again. We didn't own most of the Roger Moore ones, but we had the Dalton films. We'd watch the movies together over and over again, but for me, it was mainly Goldfinger, Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice on heavy rotation. I love those films. I love watching them with my dad. We still chat about Bond to this day. We, for lack of a better phrase, bond over bond. I was in high school in Puerto Rico when GoldenEye came out, and it was exciting. One, because Pierce Brosnan as 007 is a no-brainer, and two, the entire climax of the film that takes place in Cuba was shot in Puerto Rico. The massive dish is the Arecibo Observatory. It was all over the local news during production. My dad and I were so excited about it shooting there. Die Another Day came out a couple months after I moved to LA, which was a seminal moment in my life. My wife and I's first date was at the Cinerama Dome at the Hollywood ArcLight to see Skyfall. We've also visited many Bond locations in our travels over the years. No Time to Die was the first film I saw in theaters around post-pandemic. And recently, I was fortunate enough to work on a show at Pinewood Studios in the UK, where all the Bond films shoot. I was giddy walking around where a good number of the scenes were shot. And if you see my background, it's a pic of me posing with the shot up and destroyed Aston Martin from Quantum of Solace, taken at the Bond in Motion exhibit at the Peterson Museum. You can also see the DB10 from Spectre behind it. Ross and I went together, and we were like kids on Christmas morning looking at all the vehicles. We literally jumped with joy. I've read a good amount of the books. I've read the comic books. Bond has always had a special place in my life, again, since I was a kid, but I also recognize I'm not alone in that. James Bond has meant a good deal to a massive amount of people. He's a global, iconic character. It's an extremely influential series. Any spy project that comes out invites comparison, whether it wants to or not. It's been parodied and celebrated for decades. It's had its ups and downs, but it endures and will continue to endure and evolve. It was there before the three of us were born, and I'm fairly certain it will be there after we're no longer here. That's the power and beauty of this franchise. I'm really looking forward to what comes next.
Hear, hear.
As any James Bond fan knows, the films are a response to events or other films around the time of their release. A few examples. Live and Let Die is a response to blaxploitation films. Moonraker is a response to Star Wars. Tomorrow Never Dies is a response to the Hong Kong action movies popular in the mid to late 90s. There's plenty of others, but let's break down the Daniel Craig films. Casino Royale is a response to the reboot era of the early 2000s. We're introduced to Bond through an adaptation of the very first 007 novel written by Ian Fleming. Skyfall is a response to The Dark Knight. Spectre is a response to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in an attempt to connect all the previous Craig films to one major bad villain. No Time to Die is a final goodbye to Daniel Craig's Bond, but also a response to this era's films feeding into audience nostalgia. It's heavily influenced by On Her Majesty's Secret Service. All those films are ripe for discussion, but today we're going to focus on Craig's second outing as Bond, 2008's Quantum of Solace, which many people equate as a response to another popular spy at that time, Jason Bourne. Now, to me, time has been kind to this film, and by time, I mean the years that have passed since its release, but also its runtime. This is the shortest Bond film out of all of them, at an hour and 46 minutes. It's also the only direct sequel in the Bond franchise, meaning the opening scene takes place right after the events of Casino Royale. Greg, what happened in Casino Royale that led us to Quantum?
All right, well, as much as we are all Bond fans here, by the early 2000s, the Bond films had kind of run out of gas. In 2002, Pierce Brosnan suited up one final time for the ludicrous, campy Die Another Day, and it was time for a reset. To hear us dive more into that one, check out our episode on Cinematic 180s, where maybe I'm a little kinder to it than I was 2 decades ago. I can't be right. Needing to mix things up, the powers that be decided the best way to refresh Bond was to take things back to the beginning. Casino Royale is a sort of James Bond origin story, and we're given Bond in his early days of being 007. He's more emotional and still learning the ropes as he finds himself falling in love with the beautiful Vesper Lind while attempting to get close to an elusive arms dealer, Le Chiffre. As it turns out, Lind is being manipulated by a mysterious organization and, despite betraying Bond, also saves his life before her own death. Bond is heartbroken but does his best to mask it as he apprehends Mr. White, a spy for the rival organization which had Vesper under its thumb. The gambit paid off, and it was the shot in the arm the franchise needed, and a lot of people were excited about Quantum of Solace coming out, I think including the three of us.
Yes. Quantum of Solace is the 22nd film in the 007 franchise. It's directed by Mark Forster and stars Daniel Craig, Olga Kurylenko, Mathieu Amalric, Jeffrey Wright, and Judi Dench, among many more. Production was not an easy one. Per a Variety article in 2008, when Forster took on the pick in June 2007, he was faced with a firm November 14th, 2008 release date and a looming writer's strike. The production and post-production schedule were so tight that reshoots weren't even an option. End quote. Ross, just how bad did things get?
In preparation, I read a chapter out of an amazing book that I'm deep in the middle of right now. Ironically enough, reading about Live and Let Die at the moment, but I skipped ahead and I went to Quantum of Solace, and it's a book called Some Kind of Hero by Matthew Field and AJ Chowdhury. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounce his name, but they're great authors. My beautiful wife, Kat, she got us tickets to go see For Your Eyes Only at the Culver Theater in downtown Culver City, and it was the 45th anniversary of it. There was a Q&A afterwards with Lynn Holly Johnson, who played Bibi Dahl, the figure skater, and Bill Conti, the composer, who also did the Rocky movies. Afterwards, you got to go and meet Bill and get things signed. And then there was another table with books. I pick one up and I go, oh, I've heard of this Some Kind of Hero. I'll buy this. The mediator of the Q&A came out and he goes, you want me to sign it for you, right? So he goes, I hope this book leaves you shaken and stirred,
Nice.
Signed Matthew Field. And I go, that was Matthew Field. That's awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. And like I said, I'm deep into it right now, and it's a very, very entertaining read. If you're a Bond fan, I think that it's essential reading. And I found some really interesting facts about this movie. And one of them, it dealt a lot with how there was a looming writer's strike, and the writer's strike happened, and it was Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and Paul Haggis, and they just put pencils down. They had to. And so it ended up, the loophole that they had was that the actor and the director could still talk to each other about scenes, and that translated to, you can do the rewrites. So Forrester said, we were working with a script that wasn't completely developed. And in light of that, I felt I needed to supplement the story with visuals and subtext in order to really drive the action. But when they asked Daniel Craig, he just said, it fell on us, and a writer I am not. And so he was just like, what are we doing? You know, they basically just leaned into the action and the visuals. Originally, guys, did you know that the director wasn't even going to be Mark Forrester? It was going to be the director of Notting Hill, Roger Mitchell. And this is actually why I have had this conversation with Andreas so many times. He's probably sick of hearing it. I'm so OCD that it gives me the heebie-jeebies to think about that there's a Bond movie in 2006 and a Bond movie in 2008 and no Bond movies in the year of 007, 2007. Why? And this is why, is because they wanted it. They said, look, Casino Royale was a hit. We want to fast track this next movie and have a Bond movie in the year of 007. And it was fallen to Roger Mitchell. And the reason why it didn't get to release in 2007 was because he got cold feet due to the incomplete script and bowed out as director. And they were forced to delay the release date because of that. So I was like, okay, that's the reason right there.
I never knew that. I'm glad that there's an answer, though, because it clearly must have hit the producers that, hey, 2007 is 007. We need to release a film. But, you know, I'm so glad that there's an answer.
That's interesting because I'm a Mitchell fan. And I obviously, if he didn't feel he was up to the task or like there wasn't enough time, then full credit to him for stepping out. You don't want to deliver a poor product. I'm a huge Enduring Love fan, and that's so far away from Notting Hill. That's not that I don't think he could juggle more tones than I think people would assume. Maybe that'd even be a good future episode, or Enduring Love. Daniel Craig's in that one as well. I would be curious to see what his vision would have been. But again, you need to have everything kind of lined up. And full credit for Mark Forrester for just jumping into the fire.
Yeah.
Right. And so this gives you a little glimpse into what his vision might have been, is that Paul Haggis wanted to make the reason that Vesper betrayed Bond in Casino be that she actually had a kid with the other man she was in love with. And, you know, the whole thing was going to be Daniel Craig finding this kid at the end and, you know, saving it. And he wanted the title of the film to be called Sleep of the Dead. And so it almost was called Sleep of the Dead. And directed by someone completely different.
That's a cool title.
Oh, and I did find the quote after they went pencils down, because I love Daniel Craig and I love his frankness. And he literally just goes, quote, "We were fucked." he goes, there was me trying to rewrite a scene and a writer I am not. Yeah, I love Daniel Craig's voice on Cowboys and Aliens. He had us laughing almost every day, man. He had so much fun making that movie, and the man doesn't do anything without authority. When he comes into a room, he comes in hard, dude. Like when you see him walking around like really fast and Quantum was on, like that's how he operates. Like, yeah, very direct. If he's gonna eat a slice of pizza, walks in, takes it, folds it, eats it, looks around, walks out. You're like, whoa, James Bond is here, you know.
Well, it's funny because he always comes off, he's very good at playing such serious, kind of like no nonsense characters. But then he was really good on Saturday Night Live. So I'm glad to hear behind the scenes he was a fun guy, because it does seem like he has that side of him. We just don't always get to see it.
Definitely. My favorite line was he brought some guests into Cowboys and Aliens and he's showing them around the set. And we had all this green slime dripping from all the walls and stuff. And they go, "What's that?" And he looks at them dead serious too. He goes, "Alien splooge. Follow me." And then they
with that accent too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really funny, man. So the poster of Quantum of Solace that I got signed by Daniel, I was lucky enough to have him sign it. I actually had a poster of Casino Royale because I actually really liked the poster of him sitting at the table in the shadow with his silenced Walther PPK on the table, much better. But apparently in his contract, he has to sign whatever is the newest movie at the time. So I actually have a British poster with the October release date on it. And he was kind enough to sign it for me, put my name on it and everything, said all the very best. But the funny part is that the entire production, I was a production assistant on it, and I got to meet Ben Cook, which is his stunt double. And Ben, I kept calling the real James Bond because he was doing all his stunts. And he kept going like, "Shut up, mate. I want to keep my job. Don't let him hear that. Don't let him hear that." And I'd like write it on his coffee and stuff. He's like, "Give me another one. Give me another one." So I wanted him to sign it as well. And he put his name and I go, "Will you put the real James Bond on there?" He goes, "I'm not writing that. I'm not writing that."
Amazing.
He was so cool. Yeah. I got it framed in my house. It's a beautiful thing.
So we're all big like For Your Eyes Only fans, right?
Oh yeah.
I think that one's a sleeper too.
Oh, big time, dude. Big time. I would dare say go out on a limb and say it's one of Roger Moore's best.
I'd flip a coin between that and Spy Who Loved Me, but I could go.
Exactly.
I think Spy Who Loved Me is him plugged in, firing on all cylinders, and they found how can we use this guy, and that's one where it kind of clicks. But I like my Bond with an edge to him. They actually found something where it kind of fit with him For Your Eyes Only. So I was a huge fan of that one.
We can all agree the car kick, right, where he kicks the car off the cliff, badass, dude.
So good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to cover that one too. Okay, so taking us back to 2008, Greg, what does the word quantum mean, and what is this movie even about?
All right, so Quantum of Solace is basically like a little bit of comfort, and that's based on a Ian Fleming short story from actually the For Your Eyes Only collection, but the source material and the movie really couldn't be any more different. The story is Bond overhearing a story about a domestic dispute and reflecting on that life versus the one that he lives, which is interesting. It's an interesting short story. No, they basically just took the name and kind of ran in a different direction. It's funny, some plot threads in For Your Eyes Only are in here, so it's funny it's in that collection and the Vengeance themes here. But Quantum of Solace picks up where Casino Royale left off. Bond is transporting Mr. White to be questioned by M and MI6, and we enter the film in media res during a car chase as Mr. White's associates attempt to stop Bond. After a thrilling battle, Bond wins out, but it's a Pyrrhic victory, since after Mr. White tells M that his group have people everywhere, an agent in M's inner circle reveals themselves to be aligned with White and helps them to escape. Revealing that they are up against a shadow organization with its tendrils literally everywhere, Bond is off on a globe-trotting adventure while wrangling with his unresolved anger following Lynn's death. With a more callous, take-no-prisoners attitude, this is not the cool, calm, collected Bond that we're used to, and something that M also picks up on. Bond's exploits will reunite him with American agent Felix Leiter, Mathis, a spy that Bond had previously suspected of selling out, and he was mistaken, environmentalist entrepreneur Dominic Green, Camille, a woman with a score to settle, and the mysterious Quantum Organization. And that's a lot in a movie under 2 hours.
It is a lot. All right, well, let's get into it. Ross, what were your thoughts when you first saw Quantum of Solace, and have they changed?
Upon first viewing, obviously it goes back to what you said about the Bond films trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I just went, I just watched Bond doing Bourne, basically, because it has a lot to do with the fact that they hired Dan Bradley as the second unit director, and he did the Bourne movies. And so you got the shaky cam, you got all that really fast kinetic energy of the editing. But at the same time, I remember really enjoying it just because of how lean it is. It's a really lean movie, and especially after Casino Royale and being a little bit longer, and you have the casino scenes where they're playing poker and it's kind of drawn out. This one doesn't have any of that, dude. This one is just run and gun. I kind of love how fast it is. That was one of the reasons I love Tomorrow Never Dies so much, is because a good example is M's briefing takes place in the back seat of a speeding car as they're on their way to an airport, because Bond's on the fucking mission. He doesn't have time to sit in the office. That's what I loved about this one, is it's just like boom, 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 like right from the car chase, it shoots you out of a cannon and you just never lose any of that energy. You're constantly moving forward.
You know, I should have said it earlier, but it wasn't received as well as Casino Royale. And I think a lot of people don't like this one. Again, which is why we cover it here on Real Demers. But I'm glad to hear that you were a fan going in. Greg, what about you?
Well, I was super excited, and I think when you Google this, one of the first thing that comes up is, do people like Quantum of Solace? Like, I think like this having a bad reputation follows it around, which we're going to get into as the episode goes on. But I went with my roommates, and I loved it. I did pick up on the Bourne. It's like, you know, that Leo pointing at the screen from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I see what you're doing there. But like, I didn't mind it. And also they made it their own. Bourne, to me, is a lot of fist fights. There is some of that in here, but the action's so varied. I was like, oh, cool. You're using it, but that was fine. Didn't bother me. Lights come up. I was like jazzed walking out. I was like, that was great. That was like as good as Casino Royale, right, guys? I remember my roommates just staring back at me like, yeah, sure. not as sold. But I've always been a fan of this one. I've at the time, people were not as high on it. And I wonder how people have gone back and seen it, but I've always been a fan. And when we were talking, we were going to do a Bond film on here. We just loved it so much. This one was an early contender just because we felt like it's been kind of living in the shadows of the other ones. Andreas, what about you?
I was a fan coming out of this too. Obviously, I don't think it's as good as Casino Royale, but I didn't understand the hate for it. The opening scene, while super choppy, has a crazy energy that's exciting. And also, it gives us the car chase we'd been begging for in Casino Royale. There's a lot of fun scenes in this. I really like that they were introducing Quantum as a whole new evil organization that we hadn't ever heard of, embracing something new for the franchise. I mean, only to then completely throw that all away to bow down to Spectre in later films as fan service. But to me, Craig does his best as Bond on a revenge mission. I think even with script issues, it's a well-defined arc for Bond. He starts the film by killing everyone and ultimately doesn't technically kill in the end, and more importantly, doesn't take his revenge. Mark Forster's direction gives us the gorgeous epic scope you want from a 007 outing. The main villain is definitely underwritten, but I liked it coming out of the theater, even though I could recognize it has some issues. I will say that I do appreciate the plot isn't super convoluted. Even in you saying, you know, that's your description of it is, oh, that's a lot in a movie under 2 hours. It kind of is, but it isn't. There are times the story is a bit tedious. Some of the pacing is also a little jaded, but that's not to say the editing is bad. It's just obvious because they didn't have the written words on the page. They had to find the language of the film in the edit. Again, because of the writer's strike. I enjoy this outing. I never really fully understood all the massive hate it gets, but I know, again, coming off of how epic and energizing Casino Royale was, expectations were super high. There was no way it was going to match that. But again, I think time was on this film's side. It's aged like wine to me. And if you want a quick hit with Bond, an hour and 46 minutes ain't bad.
Exactly. And I think I can speak for all the super deep Bond fans out there that as a Bond fan, you gotta be at least a little to maybe very massively disappointed with the revenge plot going away and fizzling out after the opening title sequence in Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you for bringing this up, because all right, so this is the Bond sequel. And all right, okay, look, we're here, we're unpacking, we're pulling it apart. So this one running shorter complements Casino Royale very well, because you don't even get the famous Bond intro until the end of this movie, because he's back.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that they're going to release a Casino Royale, the whole bloody affair, with both of these films put together?
I watched the hell out of that. You just paid license to print money, my friend. Well, as much talk as there is about this being the sequel, and it's the direct follow-up, and that's kind of I'm going to use wonky, but even I enjoy it. The wonky energy here complements Casino Royale, so you can roll the momentum from that one into this one, and that's why it works. But Ross, thank you for bringing that up. up because I was going to bring up, to me, Diamonds Are Forever kind of is the sequel to Honor Majesty's Secret Service. It's just not a great flick.
Yeah.
No,
Because
it's terrible. It's a terrible flick.
The revenge plot should have been front to back. That should have been the entire film. And instead of it's a half-ass version, because they open with it, they go away, and then by the end, they bring it back again. So it's not like Blofeld's not there to be the major villain by the end of it. So to me, that's the major missed opportunity of the franchise. But maybe not full sequel, but that one's the half sequel to Honor Majesty's Secret Service.
Right. But again, going by the book, Some Kind of Hero, I went more in depth into the reasons why that was. And it was because, George Lazenby wasn't received as well. They made way less money. And, history has judged Honor Majesty's Secret Service a lot better.
Yes.
But back in that time, people were like, ooh, this is weird. We don't like this. A real downer ending in a Bond movie. What was that? So they're like, let's at least acknowledge that it happened and make the pre-titles on his little revenge mission. But then let's pull that all away and let's do jokes about how there was like an inside joke when he's talking with M about like, we do function in your absence, 007. That was like an inside joke of, okay, your Connery's back and let's just have some fun. And so they had their marching orders on Diamonds Are Forever. So let's make it silly. Let's make it fun. And guess what? It worked. And they made a ton of money on that movie because they were just having fun with it. And it sucks because it's so goofy, but the franchise is around because of it, man. Yeah, but that's why I love this one, is because now they finally, enough time had passed, audiences got a little more sophisticated, and now we finally get a proper revenge movie.
I mean,
I'll say my dad, lifelong Bond fan, did not care for Honor Majesty's Secret Service. So as much as he loved the franchise, he was. I am a fan. I like it, but that's one of our big disagreements with the movies.
Greg, my dad too. That was one we did not own. And when I asked about it, he kind of just waved it off. I didn't see that till college, and I watched it. And I was just like, this is amazing. What was everybody talking about?
Well, it is a down. Well, one, no Connery. I get being upset about that. And that is an all-time gut punch ending. I can only imagine stumbling into that, back when it was released.
We want to talk a revenge style Bond film. License to Kill is pretty great too.
License to Kill.
License to Kill.
One of my favorites.
That was its own self-contained revenge story, though, not a sequel complementing another. But you're absolutely right. Like, dude, ahead of its time. Like Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton's Bonds are very lockstep.
I wish Dalton had more time.
Me too. Me too. And Brosnan. I think both of those men deserved at least one more movie each.
I wish Brosnan got some of the Craig scripts, but he did the best he could with what he had. But okay, so here's Quantum, and I just kind of circle back. I would say, despite 3 screenwriters appearing in the credits, I do think this is the word I came up with, efficient movie. You got the action beats. You introduce this conspiracy that's going to kick off kind of like this whole other adventure that he's going to go on for these next few films, at least until Spectre comes in, which we'll talk about. And then I like the through line of Bond kind of reconciling with what happened in the previous movies, because like most of the time Bond shakes off whatever the hell happened to him. He's been tortured, beat up, people he loved or killed. Within a half an hour of the next movie, he's totally fine. Seeing him kind of reckoning with that, and also M, somebody close to him, recognizing something's wrong with him, I think this is a cool juggling act, and I think they pull it off.
And I'm going to skip ahead to one of my runners up for a t-shirt quote.
Sure.
Is when Olga Krylenko says, "There's something horribly efficient about you." So you're absolutely right on that one.
One of the bigger complaints I see is people talking about, the main plot and how the villain just wants to control water. I don't think that's that bad of a plot. In an IGN article from 2008, the producer, Michael G. Wilson, said, quote, "We're always trying to think in contemporary terms. What are the real issues that are coming up? I guess what we see in the future is a fight over natural resources, and the people that can control them will be bigger than governments or states. Our particular man here is someone who's controlling the water in various countries. And if you remember in Chinatown, if you control the water, you control the whole development of the country. I think it's true. Right now it appears to be oil, but there's a lot of other resources that we don't think about too much, but are all essential, and they're very limited, and every country needs it."
Yeah. And again, adding in a couple of facts that I learned recently, guys, is that Paul Haggis took inspiration from the Bechtel water scandal in Bolivia, where water was privatized with disastrous results. And also, furthermore, Your Honor, The Bush family, like George
Oh.
W. Okay. This is getting kind of real. This is hitting home. They actually own land in Bolivia located on top of one of the great aquifers where there's a huge resource of underground water. So this is actually a very finger on the pulse type plot.
We're breaking news here, Real Demers. So very special
Exclusive,
episode.
exclusive.
But I don't need everybody trying to take over the world. I don't need everybody trying to like build a giant laser in space or something. And also, this film's crowded enough as it is. That would have been, to me, that would have pushed it over the top where it's like, oh, they're trying to, like, that's the twist. They're not after oil, they're after water. Okay, great. So again, I think that's fine. Maybe it didn't meet people's expectations, but I don't think that's a reason to hold it against the film that your expectations didn't line up.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's a believable enough plot if you're setting up an organization that you've never heard of. Like the fact that MI6 has no idea what quantum is or who they are, and that they have people everywhere. Of course, they're going to have more. So, like, if they were trying to take over the world in a more bombastic way, they'd know, they would have a better idea. But the fact that they're just going and starting to control water around the world, that's a bit more subtle.
Well, also what I really enjoyed, guys, is it shares a lot of the plot details of like from this movie behind me, from Dr. No, is what I think, Andreas, you and I were discussing this the other day about what makes Dr. No so special is that you are discovering the mystery. You're unraveling the mystery of Dr. No and his plan as Bond does.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that movie interesting. I found that to be true with this movie as well, is that it's not like a let's see the evil thing happen in the pre-titles and we know what the villain's up to as the audience, and then we watch Bond solve that mystery. It's no, you open the trunk with Mr. White and you're interrogating him and you're finding out as they find out, and all the secret agents that pop up and surprise them, you're surprised by as well. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it on this viewing. So I go, oh yeah, no, you're in real time here.
Yeah, I always appreciate that because you never want to know the mystery before the hero does, because then it's not fun.
I think this is the fact that Quantum is sandwiched between two epics, two great epics, also didn't do it any favors. On top of, as Andreas said, so we're using the Quantum organization because they didn't have the right to Spectre. Spectre had been tied up in a legal fight for years, so they invented their own. Great, that's awesome. That's something I had been thinking of for a while, even at the tail end of the Brosnan films. Love to have some kind of evil organization again. So was so thrilled that they introduced it here. Unfortunately, they did get the rights back. So then it was like, well, might as well lean into it. So 2 movies later, Quantum kind of takes a back seat to Spectre's back. Blofeld's there. To me, that's too convoluted. I'm not the world's biggest Spectre fan. And I think that kind of took the wind out of the sails of this one. Again, it stands on its own 2 feet. But as part of this 5-film series, now it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the group.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Ross, since we have a pro here, what are the stunts, the action, just like from behind the scenes? How does this come off? Because we've never had somebody with your expertise on before.
We're about to pop this can open here, boys. Like this is going to be a long conversation. No, I absolutely love the car chase. I love it. I still think that to this day, it's the best car chase in the series. And there's no gadgets on the damn car. There's no armor on the damn car. Like if he had any other Aston Martin from the series, he would have hit 2 buttons and both of those cars would have blown up in the tunnel and it would have been the shortest chase ever. They immediately have him get hooked onto the bumper of a truck and rip his door off, doing a 360 in the tunnel, exposing James Bond to the gunfire, to the cars that are whipping around him, to the walls, the marble walls by the way, they shot in this Carrera mine in Italy where they make mine marble. And that's actually where the Porsche Carrera gets its name from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little fun fact. And it just immediately you're like, I'm puckered. I'm tensed up now because, Bond is halfway out of the car for the whole chase. And I just think that's awesome. I thought it was absolutely awesome. I thought they had a really good handle on what to leave in and what to take out, because if you've ever watched any behind the scenes on it, at the end, when the Land Mover comes between them and they kind of split, Bond was originally supposed to ski the car like he did in Diamonds Are Forever and go on 2 wheels and then come back down. And I guess it looked so ridiculous on the rigs they were using and stuff. They go, no, we'll just have them shoot, and they go off the cliff. So that was a good call.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, when you're flying in on that beautiful establishing shot and then you just get those great inserts of the air scoop and like the wheel and the shifter, and then it just hits you in the face with that amazing sound design. I just remember leaning forward in my seat because Andreas will tell you every time a Bond movie comes out, and I think this is the first movie that I started doing this with because it was so short and so easy to do. I watch them 7 times in the theater. I will not stop until I've seen the Bond movie 7 times. And
you saw No Time to Die 7 times.
7 times. I did.
No,
I did.
no. The other good, the more egregious one is you saw Spectre,
Spectre.
7 times.
Oh my God.
I did.
It's all right.
It's my 6th time. I have one more. But yeah, dude. And every single one of those times I would lean forward in my seat and I would have the biggest smile on my face. So the car chase rules. The boat chase is amazing. It's not talked about. It's slept on. It's a great boat chase. The sound of the boat is what gets me excited about that one.
Ross, not to interrupt you, that's in my notes because I always think of the car chase. I'm like, oh man, the chase during the horse race, that's awesome. So it's like bang, bang, like 2 great ones right out of the gate. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in. And then this time watching the boat chase, I'm like, man, this boat chase is pretty sweet too.
Yeah.
And it's forgot. You're right. It's an underrated action piece in this film.
I was really impressed with how much Daniel Craig did himself. Like, for example, the rooftop chase in Sienna, when he jumps from one roof, like he shoots down at the guy, accidentally breaking the shingles, causing a chain reaction of the clay shingles to slide down. And now he's in this avalanche of shingles. He has to then propel himself down across the alley to the next landing. And that was Daniel Craig. I mean, he was on a wire harness and they had big bay cranes, all throughout the city. It looked like a big erector set over the city of Siena. And so he was on cables and he was on what they call a jerk vest, which is a full body harness, but he still did that stunt himself, and falling down, clearing 10 feet and falling 20 feet, and then blasting your shoulder and your rotator cuff into a wall and landing on a balcony at 40 years old. You got some big brass ones, bro. Like you are James Bond. And then he also jumped down on top of the moving bus. And again, it was wired up. Gary Powell was the stunt coordinator and he had him very safe. But dude, to jump out of a window onto the top of a moving bus, you're in the cool book, dude.
I didn't know he did the bus one. I'd seen that he did the in some of the behind the scenes stuff. I saw that he did the rooftop jump, but I didn't realize he did the bus as well. Wow.
You bet. And a lot of the fights, besides going through the glass window, I think he did the whole fight scene with Mr. Slate in the hotel room, which was great. It's a banger.
I was about to say it's a banger. Ross, man, you're welcome back anytime.
Hey, man. Yeah. So it just, I always see the stunt guys, they put their lives on the line every single time they bring it. They drop our jaws. But when the actor can also step up and say, hey, you're going to take the real dangerous stuff, but we're going to have a relationship here. Like, I'm going to take as much as I think I can, but then we're going to be teammates on this. That's the kind of actor I like. They're not out just to take credit. You know what I mean? They realize it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Dude, so Raj is my favorite, dude. He is so funny. So my favorite line about stunt doubling is when they would ask him in the early 70s, hey, do you do all your own stunts? And he looked them dead in the eye and he said, absolutely. And I also do all of my own lying. Because he was notorious for not wanting to do any stunts. He had stuntmen. He's like, I would have stuntmen walk to the bathroom for me. He's like, I don't want to do any of it. So he had a stuntman named Martin Grace, who was very, very studly. And he said to him once, by the God of grace go I, is what he would say to him. So
amazing. I know he didn't do that crocodile run.
No, that was a guy named Ross.
Oh,
that
nice.
was a guy named Ross. Yeah, his name was Ross Kananga. And they liked his last name so much, they named the main villain in the movie after him.
Amazing.
Whoa.
Amazing. I love it.
But my favorite too is Raj's wit was still in full force on that scene. And it was his decision to wear crocodile shoes in that scene. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
There is one more fun fact that I wanted to throw to you guys about the car chase. And it actually has nothing to do with the car chase, but it just happened during the filming of it. Is one weekend while the unit was down, they wanted to do a press event with the DBSs. And there was a bloke who was named Fraser Dunn. And poor Fraser Dunn was an Aston Martin engineer, and it was his task to deliver the DBS to the press event. Well, like any of us would do, I don't fault him on this. He put on the Bond theme inside the car and he started hauling ass. And he's going through the tunnels, he's firewalling it. and he lost control. And I think the road was a little slick. It had rained that day. He spun out, he crashed through the guardrail, and he ended up in Lake Garda. And he hit the guardrail so hard he knocked himself unconscious. When the poor man regained consciousness, he was at the bottom of the lake in the car that the roof had now crushed down onto him. And he's going, oh, there was like a little bit of air left in the air pocket. He's like, oh shit. So he luckily got out and he swam to the surface. He probably wished he hadn't though at that point. They had to crane the thing out of the water and, oh my God, crazy, crazy story that not a lot of people realize happened.
Wow.
Your Honor, who amongst us would not have I could defend that guy. I hope he don't serve a day in jail for that one.
Yeah. Your Honor, take this CD, get in that car, and tell me you wouldn't have done the same.
And tell me how your right foot feels.
Okay, let's get to categories. This is where we like to highlight our favorite aspects of the film. Ross, what's the heart of the film?
The heart of the film to me, boys, is I thought it was that being motivated purely by revenge hurts you the most. And if you can learn to let go, you can forgive yourself.
Nice. I like that.
That's good. Mine is Med would rather take down a global conspiracy than go to therapy.
So true. So true. Your Honor, wouldn't you?
Who amongst us?
Who here?
This is the craziest day on the bench I've ever had. These
You're out of order. Oh boy.
My heart of the film is maybe revenge is a dish best served hot and alive? ? Okay. Let's get to favorite scene.
I have the car chase. Duh.
I'm split. I'm gonna go with my gut. Number 2. So Bond's buddy Mathis, after they've reconciled, he gets shot. He's dying. So he dies in Bond's arms. Tells him like, we're good, right? And he tells Bond to forgive himself, to forgive Vesper. And then the moment his soul leaves his body, he's a corpse. Bond just chucks him in the trash because that's the life of a spy. Well played, well acted, ties into the themes of the film. It's a slower moment, but it works. Very action-packed scenes, as we've been, kind of pointing out. I love that. But the one that always gets me going, and also underrated moment in the film, is at one point Bond goes to an opera. Like he's tracking this quantum organization. It's operatives, and he gets this special, earpiece and a microphone. And at the opera, that's how they're all talking to each other. So under the cover of this. And he decides he's going to blow their cover. So he gets on the mic and they know that they're being spied on. So some people start to stand up. I like Mr. White's smart enough to stay exactly where he is and not fall for that. And Bond's able to get their picture by willing to put his neck out. That turns into a fight scene. So that you see the opera going on, you see him escaping. That's the Forster direction and this rapid fire editing. I love that going back and forth. And it's not the showiest part of the movie. It's unexpected. I'm not expecting to see these opera visuals here. And I love how they're kind of played against one another.
I thought that scene was the most Bondian in that it's Bond's MO to provoke and confront villains. A true spy would have just hung there and got as much intel as they could and snuck away. Bond doesn't do that.
Yep.
Bond goes, dude, here I am. That's what cracks me up about how people are all like, oh, he's the worst secret agent. Everybody knows his name. The thing is, yeah, everybody knows his name. It's like in Casino Royale where he's like, James Bond, you'll find the reservation under beach. He's just screw the cover. I don't care. It's all just play theater. I'm a badass. I'm a hitman from my government, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm coming for you. Bring it. That's Bond's mentality. And that was that scene absolutely on display, Greg. That was a really good call.
Also, not to be totally hack, but there's something satisfying in the year 2026 to see these, these villains behind the scenes and somebody telling them, I'm on to you. They're in the crowd.
Hell yeah, dude. So. You bet. I would love to see James Bond kicking the door of the guys these days. Good Lord.
I love the car chase, but I'm with Greg. It's the opera scene. Hands down. Yeah, I love in the moment when all the villains are leaving, it's revealed that Mr. White is in attendance. And instead of leaving, he kind of just subtly removes the earpiece and places it in his pocket. And as he sees people going for the exits, he stays seated and he turns to his companion and goes, well, Tosca isn't for everyone. And I love absolutely love the moment when Bond runs into Green and his entourage as the opera crescendos. It's such a cool moment. It's like a standoff. But then the quick cuts with the opera as Bond flees, and it's violent. And I love what the sound design is doing. It's so experimental and unlike anything we've ever seen in a Bond film before. It's a hell of a sequence. Just quickly, my wife actually saw Tosca at that exact theater in Bregenz, Austria, a few weeks before they shot it for the film.
What?
Oh shit, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
Amazing.
And then when she was headed to Switzerland on the Autobahn, early morning, they announced traffic from the theater because filming just wrapped. They shot all night, so it was like it was a big to do that all the cars were leaving, even though it was like 5:30 a.m.
What, dude?
How
That's
was the show?
Oh, she loved it. She loved it.
That's cool. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, did you catch the "Spy Who Loved Me" reference at the end of that sequence?
Yeah, with the tie.
Yes.
Oh.
And he's got the guy, and he goes, "Who do you work for?"
Oh, yeah.
work
Oh,
for?"
yes,
And then
yes,
he
yes.
just
yes.
goes, whap! Like he grabs onto Bonnie, and just goes, whap! And the dude just falls off the roof. And I go, that was Spy right there. That was a reference. But now also, guys, there's a big point I wanted to make that kind of tying your scenes and my scenes together is Mr. White. Now, the only thing that I don't like about my favorite scene, the car chase, is that there's no gun barrel at the beginning. It's very off-putting to me to not see the little white dot in the gun barrel, and then they could have fully revealed the lake and flown right in. It would have been awesome. Why did they not do that? Well, it had to do with Mr. White. And I found out through that book, again, Some Kind of Hero, that Mark Forrester wanted to end the movie. He wanted to bookend the movie with Mr. White. And after the Russia scene, which is behind Greg right there, he was going to walk off and they were going to cut to London or someplace. And he catches back up with Mr. White and he kills him.
Oh.
And they shot that scene, but they cut it out. And so my theory, they don't really say this in the book, but my feelings on it are that scene right there where he's talking to Judi Dench in the snow and he throws the necklace and it's this very subtle piano as it fades to the snow. That's a boring ass ending for a James Bond movie. So they go, how do we punch this up? Well, let's move the gun barrel to the end and then we can have the one last and boom, and he shoots you, and it's much more exciting to end the movie on. So I think that's why they did that. But I thought it very interesting as to the why of it. You know,
that is interesting. I don't mind that scene. I actually really, really like that scene at the end of the movie. But I'm with you. It's very awkward and weird that it's a freeze frame, and then we go straight into the main title sequence.
Right. So
I took it as it's not quite Bond. We have like 98% Bond. We're missing that 2%. And at the end, okay, he's back, guys. And then that's it. But I was like, I'm just glad the chase is getting this much love. Like this is fantastic because like I've always been a fan of that chase. It's one of my favorite openings. It's clever in that it reveals Mr. White's in the trunk, but it's not like full of one-liners or there's other ones. It's a damn good car chase and it looks gorgeous and that's it. So the fact that we're all like, oh yeah, car chase, it's awesome. It's like, this is going better than I expected.
Did you really think we were gonna like the car chase?
No, but like not that it's just like, oh, it's a good car chase versus like that car chase is amazing. You know, just
it's
the
amazing
level of enthusiasm.
It's amazing. But I know a lot of people critique it for the editing, but honestly, I feel like the editing works for that scene. It's incredible. It's awesome.
It does.
And even watching it in the theater, I thought I don't want. I had the moment. I'm like, this is working. The Bond identity of it all. I don't want to see this again and again and again. I even had that thought in the like, don't make 5 of these and just try. But they didn't. So as this one-off, great. You use the style.
And one of the coolest musical beats of the entire score is when the chase is over. He pulls into Siena, and it's that long lens shot of him coming down that tunnel.
Yes.
David Arnold hits in with this. I don't know what it's like, guitar or some kind of harp or something. It kind of gave me like Harry Palmer vibes.
Oh,
like you know what I mean? Like old '60s spy vibes. When he's pulling in that tunnel, and it's just like not enough is said about David Arnold, you guys.
No.
He is, and this is his 5th and final score of a Bond movie. And to say, hey, this is going to be the most un-Bond movie where he's not going to order a vodka martini. There's no gun barrel at the beginning. It's the only Bond movie where he doesn't say the name's Bond, James Bond. And there's no Bond theme. The entire movie, there's no Bond theme. And
I did miss that.
To still work with that and still kind of give you the framework of that and the background was still pretty cool. And he did the best with what he had. It was still a very cool score. And have you heard the song on the end credits? It's called Crawl, End Crawl.
Oh yeah.
That will get your toe tapping like crazy, dude. I was watching the credits to, get info for the episode here. And I just go, wait, this kind of slaps. And I had to rewatch it because I'm like, this is so cool. So I love you, you, David Arnold, wherever you are. I hope you come back and do
Amazing.
another Bond.
Okay, favorite shot. I'll start. For me, we've already talked at length about this, but it's literally the first shot of the film. It's such a beautiful shot, that super fast flying over water of Lake Garda. There's something so hypnotic about it. Ross just talked about David Arnold's amazing music. It's perfect. It's taken us from the logos. There's this muffled sound design. You get a hint of engines revving, and the speed of the shot lets us know it's not a calm establishing shot. Shit is about to go down, and it goes into those quick cuts of the Aston Martin and then intercut with the rest of the shot gliding along the lake. I love it. I love this opening so much. It's up there as one of my favorites in the franchise. I think a lot of people who aren't the biggest fans of the film, they still do tend to think the car chase is one of the best parts of the film. When I went to go see this, I went to see it with a friend of mine. He showed up late. He showed up after the main title sequence, and he goes, "Did I miss anything?" And I just looked at him and I was like, I don't even know how to explain what you just missed. Yeah.
Favorite shot was tough because every shot of the opera, I'm like, awesome, 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 awesome. But like, there wasn't like one that was like, this is the winner of the sequence. So I'm going to do Bond and Camille walking back into town because I think it's just like a cool, they're well dressed, but all beat up. The wariness, there's kind of like the, well, I got to get back to workness of it. And the other one I'll call out is Field's dead on the bed covered in oil. That's just a great looking visual. Now, the Goldfinger illusion, that's still the one of the all-time greats. And this is like, the allusion to it. Love that one as well. For this go around, Bond and Camille coming back in.
Awesome.
For sure. And I love the juxtaposition of it. The rough and the raw desert with them in their like evening clothes,
Yes.
like it's a really cool juxtaposition. Great call. And good editing too. I like how they kind of fade in and fade out as they walk, and like they get on the bus and then the bus just kind of disappears it's really cool.
Yeah, the fade in, fade out gives it that sort of mirage feeling.
Mm-hmm. My favorite shot, guys, of course, is going to be an action shot. And I really like the shot where it's the end of the chase. They're in the bell tower. Mitchell pops out. They fall. And we fall with them and tilt down and go through the glass into the next sequence, which is the ropes in that whatever art gallery or whatever it is. But that shot, even though, there's some CG, there's obviously a motion control rig, it's a pretty damn cool shot. And you feel like you fell off the bell tower with them. And so that one really raised my eyebrow.
And I think that's an underrated scene, like them fighting within the scaffolding, Bond being tied up on the rope and swinging. The sound design, again, the sound. I'm going to talk about the sound design all the time, but just of the glass pieces, that's a great scene and a great shot. Okay, MVP.
The background player who is sweeping without touching the broom to the ground behind Daniel Craig. And I'm just kidding. It is Daniel Craig. But I just wanted to throw that out there because that guy got a note from the AD that went, "Hey, that broom's a little loud. Can you just pick it up a little for the next take?" And he fully did that. So MVP to that guy.
Amazing.
Ross, I'm so glad you brought that guy up because he might appear in another category.
There you go.
Of ours, but we're not there yet. So
all right. But no, it's honestly, it's Daniel Craig. He went above and beyond. He got in the best shape of his life. Like I said, he threw himself into the stunt. He hurt himself. He had to have shoulder surgery after this. He really embodied the part of Bond and carried this whole movie and had to be a writer too. So
well, I'll shout out the other not a writer, Mark Forster. I think they totally rose to the occasion. I love this entry. Probably my favorite movie of theirs, though I think Stay would be an interesting episode of Real Demers. Look, they came out of the gate. They did an indie called Everything Put Together that played on Independent Film Channel way back in the day, but didn't really make that much of a dent in the public consciousness. But then Monsters Ball, people love that. Finding Neverland, big films. Who knew he had an action banger like this hiding out? And I think it's his style, and along with the editing and just everybody's working together behind the scenes. So to give full credit to the crew, but with all the problems that we outlined before and all the things that could have gone wrong and having a script that maybe is not 100% there, it looks so cool. Who cares? And so I think they do a good job of selling it to us.
I love that shout out because I'm with you. He's not my MVP, but it's hard to argue against that and what he was able to do with this movie. My MVP is Callum McDougall, who is a producer and the unit production manager, because managing this shoot during a strike was most likely insane. And the fact that we got something coherent is impressive. So I think they're the MVP.
And going to all those really difficult locations had to be hard. And the UPM is managing that too. So
yeah,
big time shout out. Good call.
Okay. Underrated element. To me, it's the music. The score by David Arnold. Ross already talked about how amazing he is and what he does for this film and the other Bond films he's done. I feel like it does a lot of heavy lifting for some of the more tedious scenes, but again, I love what it does over the opening logos and into that amazing first shot of the car chase. I do miss the 007 theme. The main title sequence is a bit lackluster for me, but I know I'm in the minority. I actually really like the Jack White Alicia Keys theme song, Another Way to Die. I read that Jack White was inspired by John Barry's On Her Majesty's Secret Service theme, which is a banger. But per BBC News and CNN, producer Mark Ronson was set to create the Bond theme for this film with Amy Winehouse. But her unfortunate drug, legal, and romantic issues got in the way. And it's a shame we never got an Amy Winehouse theme. Her voice was made for Bond.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the saddest stories I ever heard, too. There was this documentary about the music of Bond, and Barbara Broccoli was interviewed, and she said she was having a meeting with Amy Winehouse. And the whole time, Amy Winehouse was like nodding, like she was listening and writing in her notebook. And then she excused herself to go to the bathroom. Barbara Broccoli did her best James Bond impression, and she kind of snuck a peek of her notes. And it was very much like The Shining, dude. It was like she just kept writing over and over, like, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he love me? It was so sad how she was dealing with depression and with drug use. So yeah, that is one of the eternal shames that we'll never get that Amy Winehouse score. But if it had to be a last minute thing, I'm glad it was Jack White, because dude, he is a great musician. I am in love with Alicia Keys.
Of course you are. You have a heart, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. But man, the two of them, it's the only duet too. There's never been a duet in the Bond series.
Well, I'd say an unconventional opening song for an unconventional Bond film. So it fits.
Yeah, but people don't like it. Like you ask anyone about it and they don't. I think it's awesome. Again, the main title sequence leaves a bit to be desired, but the song, I love it. And for some reason, I don't know why. Well, maybe it's too long, but it's a truncated version in the main title, a truncated version of the song.
I agree. I fully agree. I had David Arnold's final score.
Awesome.
It's just like it elevates every scene. He did such a good job with this one. I really enjoyed it.
You know, I was going to go music, and I'm glad you guys picked up on that. I had Another Day to Die written down, and then something else went off where, because I'm like, people might talk about that. That might be that. And something that's not talked about as much is Mathis's love interest, played by Lucrezia Lante della Rovere. I may have massacred your name.
That's just fun to say. No, that's just fun to say.
Playing a Gemma. So you get Mathis, following the events of Casino Royale, is now living this fantastic, retired. He's happy. He's got, like his companion with him. Bond shows up and he's salty because Bond thought he was a traitor. He got tortured, but Gemma walks out and immediately diffuses the tension with like, well, we wouldn't have got this villa, without him. And then she's so pleasant, and, him and, Bond are talking like spy talk, and she is like representing retirement, peace. There's love. They're right there. And she's like, literally like, I want your hands on my body. Like, get over here. I'll just stop talking all that serious talk. And Bond makes the offer to him. I want you to come with me. And like, why would Mathis leave this paradise to go off on this adventure? But that's the type of cloth that he's cut from. So she looks over at Bond, and that pleasantness that we've had immediately drops. She's in the movie for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and I feel like she's a fully realized character given very little time. Again, in a movie that's under 2 hours, and I remember that performance. So full credit to her. I think she did an excellent job.
It's a great call.
Okay, who was having the most fun?
I had it a tie between Mathis's girlfriend, Gemma, played by Lucrezia Lante della Rovere, because absolutely, she's just like, dude, guys, chill. Because everybody else in the movie seems like they're at work, and she definitely is not at work, dude. She's just at work getting a tan at her villa and trying to get Mathis to chill. Yeah. So she was pretty cool. But I have to go with David Harbour's agent Greg Beam in his scenes. And I thought it was Bean this whole time, honestly, until I looked that up. I thought she said, when Judi Dench says, "Thank you, Mr. Bean," I thought she was saying Mr. Bean, like the character Mr. Bean. But it's Beam, like Jim Beam. And I think it's a missed opportunity that they didn't have his first name be Jim, but his name's Greg, which is a great name, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, he just, he's so slimy, but he understood the assignment.
Yes.
Is that he's slimy, but he's loving it. He's like, I'm bad. I know it. I'm in bed with the devil and I'm going to be rich as fuck. So he's loving being on his Gulfstream jet, sipping the drink, and they have a little turbulence, and he's like, "What's going on here?" Like this usually doesn't happen on our comfy airplanes, and he's laughing and stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, he's an asshole, and he makes you want to hate him, which you do. But and then later in the movie, he's like swatting flies, and he's like, "Hey, don't drink that. I came from a river with little kids peeing in it. Gonna get botulism." So he just was having fun. It seemed like to me.
I love that moment when Green shows him the picture of Bond on the phone and asks him if he knows him, and then he just throws it to Felix, and Felix denies any knowledge of knowing Bond, but then Bean tells Green all about Bond, and the look on Felix's face is amazing. Like, I love that moment because then you realize, oh yeah, the CIA doesn't give a shit about Bond or MI6. They're just all in it for their own interests. And now we know we, as the audience, can't trust this guy. And we know the situation that Felix is in. It's a quick moment, but again, it's a really good moment.
Well, and I love it because they don't give Jeffrey Wright a whole lot to do in this movie as Felix. And to have him be a total homie in that scene and cover for James and be like, no, never seen him. It makes you go, yeah. Felix is a good dude.
Well, speaking of broad strokes, I'm going to go with Matthew Almeric as the villain because, again, not a ton of character development, but here's what I like about it. Between Casino Royale and between Skyfall, those are your heavy hitter villains. And those are the guys that have the classic Bond disfigurements. There's something wrong with them, that type of thing. He doesn't have those things. To me, he's the placeholder villain. And the movie even treats him like the placeholder villain. Bond's not after him. He's after his employers. He's after he's trying to get to Vesper's boyfriend. Camille isn't after him. She's after the man that wronged her family. So he's almost just that doofus who's in the way of getting there. I think he plays douchebag really well. And also he can play so sympathetic in other films that I like. He has that psycho stare at points. There's moments where you're just on his face and he's just looking dead-eyed out. And then he snaps back into character again. So not given a ton to do. Absolutely. Not going to be anybody's number one, but he eats this role as much as he's given. And I love his fight at the end where it's you put Bond up against this guy. Bond's going to break this guy in half. Bond's going to break every bone in this guy's body. And I like him attacking him with the pipe, shrieking like an animal, grabbing he throws himself in to a role that does not have a ton of flesh on its bones. I really enjoy how much energy he puts into this.
The shrieking is so good because it's really this guy up against Bond, but the shrieking adds a layer to it that it's okay, there's something psychotic about this guy. Maybe he could do a little damage.
I do love that he swings and hits himself in the foot with the axe too. It's pretty funny.
But in a Variety article mentions, quote, Bond villain Dominic Green, played by the Diving Bell and the Butterfly star Mathieu Amalric, is bone-chilling without relying on any of the usual tics. Amalric wanted to add a nasty scar, but Forster wouldn't let him. You don't need a crutch, he said. We have seen that. And I like your assessment of it, Greg, that he's almost he's not that high at Quantum. He's almost middle management Quantum.
Yes. That's how I view him. So it's let's get rid of this guy. So even Bond doesn't even bother to kill this guy. It's all right, go back to your people. I got what I need. So.
Give him the water assignment. He can take care of the water.
Yeah. I will say in his defense, guys, he did have one thing going for him. And I think this is what actually got him cast. His eyes. There's a couple of looks that he flashes, when he's sitting in the car looking at Felix, are you on my team? Right before the car pulls away. And then that scene you mentioned, Andreas, where the opera's crescendoing and he's looking at Bond. He's got terrifying eyes at some points. He looks like the devil at some, and I'm okay, that's why you're the Bond villain, right?
I mentioned that he's in The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and if anyone has not seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It's an incredible film. Okay, for me, the person having the most fun is Charles Adcock, who is the explosives engineer. I mean, just watch the climax at the hotel and you'll understand why. They also did special effects for Children of Men, Captain America: The First Avenger, Spectre, and No Time to Die.
Nice.
Good resume.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you can tie all the Bond movies into one category. Ever since Dr. No, they always blowed stuff up real good.
I do like how it's set up where it's like, oh, we have this hotel to ourselves. Yes, it's built on fuel cells. Well, that sounds very unstable. And that's all they did. So, okay. And then the whole thing just blows to absolute. So maybe that could be a little bit more finesse, but who cares? It's a great, it's great action. I love it blowing up. And also, I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it. I like Camille's revenge arc. We really haven't talked about that, but the main female lead of this film, she has her own little like story. And as much as a fan of For Your Eyes Only as I am, I feel like that revenge plot gets a little lost in the shuffle compared to everything else happening here. Here, it never loses sight of it, and she gets to complete her story is her story, and Bond doesn't come in to save her from the guy. He does have to come in to save her from the whole place exploding, but at least she's allowed to have her moment without somebody else stepping on it.
That's well said. I also want to shout out, we don't really mention this, but the moment that Bond gets to the hotel and starts tearing shit up is a great action scene with all the explosions. There's that great, I don't know if it's a roof slide or a hood slide where the explosion happens and he's in silhouette sliding over the car. There's some great stunt work in that scene.
Well,
there's something satisfying about him. So Mathis is betrayed by a friend of his in the police force. So when Bond lands on his car, you and I had a mutual friend, and he shoots him in the fucking face. That's like great. It's not even like it's not even like a clever line, but it's a very satisfying moment.
That's what I was just gonna say, Greg. I said that is a blink and you miss it moment, but it made me pump my fist because he avenged Mathis.
Yeah,
I love that. Just that he took that, because he could have just shot right away, but just to take that extra minute to go, look in my eyes. We had a mutual friend. You know me? Okay, you're dead. Like, that's so James Bond, dude. I love it.
This is a good movie, you guys. Okay, what is your convince me to watch it scene?
Okay, I love the chase. I'm almost not going to say the chase because I feel like let's hook them with this scene. And they'll be like, oh, I want to say that. Then they'll be able to discover the chase on their own. I'm going to go with the foot chase during the horse race. The intensity of that, and kind of also, I like using the horse race. I like him shooting into the crowd. I like cutting back to what's happening in the crowd. I think it shows that Forster's incorporating maybe more elements into this in the visual style than you'd expect. And I think that's the catnip to get you in. And then you're going to hit him with that amazing chase at the car chase at the opening of the film.
I initially was going to say the opening car chase, but I feel like someone might not dig the editing style. So I'm going to go with the plane sequence. I think that's another underrated and really exciting scene.
Yeah, the one demerit that I would give it, though, is that it got cheapened at the end where they do the skydiving sequence, and it's clearly just them on a green screen.
It wasn't, though. It wasn't on a...
Yeah, it was in an air fan room.
Yeah.
Right? And so they were actually flying, but it was still a green screen. Like, I would have loved to have seen at least a couple of shots of some real skydiving.
I see what you're saying. So it's like actual stunt people skydiving.
Exactly. And
that's fair.
And like, if you put in Moonraker and you watch it back to back with Quantum of Solace, two movies separated by like 20 years or something, like 30 years, Moonraker wins, even though we can see the guy's goggles. We can see that the guy does not look anything like Roger Moore. We can see the other guy even looks less like Jaws. We don't care because it's real stuntmen doing a real stunt. And we see the hidden parachute rigs and everything, but they invented those for the movie. And so you appreciate it a little more. Whereas I can see you try to take a step technologically and it was the safer option to do. I mean, Tom Cruise probably should have done that a lot more than doing actual stuff for his Mission Impossible. Would have saved a lot of time and a lot of people's anxiety levels, but it just looks so phony. The rest of the sequence is a killer though, man. That DC-3 getting chased by that machete plane, and again the sound design in it, man. The sound of those planes, the sound of the machine guns. And another fun fact I wrote down for you guys. I was hoping you would bring up the airplane sequence that I found out in that book that Alfonso Cuarón and Guillermo del Toro provided their voices for the men on the radio during the aerial dogfight sequence.
Huh.
Wow. That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a great
because they shot it all in Mexico. And those guys found out they were doing it. So they're like, dude, we'll be voices. The helicopter talking to the fighter plane are those two directors.
That's amazing. I never knew
awesome.
that.
Well, I'm going to be boring, guys, because I'm just going to say the car chase. I love it so much. I'm sorry. I really do. I mean, we were talking to Andreas about how the car chase in No Time to Die is so spectacular because then you get like the rawness of this chase mixed with gadgets because we want to see gadgets, you know? But this one, dude, it feels like you got shot out of a gun at the beginning of this movie. It really does. Like just the car's ripping and just that shot where it kind of pans to the side of the car and you see the reflection of the black sedans. And this was the return of the gunman in the black sedans. We hadn't had that for a couple of movies, and it was missed. I don't think we had it since Tomorrow Never Dies. I think that was the last one that had gunmen in the black sedan, and that's just such a Bond trope.
Yeah,
you know, just the guys hanging out the window with a machine gun. You know, and those Alfa Romeos, dude. The Aston's cool, but so were those Alfas.
Yeah,
those Alfas were really cool little cars. Honestly, it's a shot. It's one shot that's like would convince you to watch the movie. Is right after the cop says we have a high-speed chase. Aston Martin chasing an Alfa Romeo heading for the quarry. There's this tracking shot going down this road and there's a tunnel and the Aston and the Alfa come out of that tunnel at about $110 and go by the camera and the fucking horn, whoever was playing that horn just go like he goes all the way up and it just I'm like yeah like oh Bond is back, let's go. Like it really makes a hair stand up on the back of my neck. I love it so much.
It's such a good scene. I love the shot of the Alfa Romeo just crashing through the barrier and just spinning off the cliff. It's so cool.
And
so
cool. I've heard people break that down online where they're just like the guy who was like running the wheels on that one was like trying to find it and it's bouncing and it's doing all this crazy stuff. But the thing is that, you know, Dan Bradley's initiative on the second unit was to just say, hey, make it dirty. Make it seem like, what do they call it? That Paul Greengrass would do in the Bourne movies is there's the knowing eye, right? Like the camera pans down to a telephone and then the telephone rings. That's the knowing eye. And then there's the discovering eye, which is phone rings and then you whip pan to the phone like you didn't know it was going to ring. And so I think a lot of Quantum of Solace is the discovering eye. It's very much like almost like a documentary type of feel. So it makes it feel like it's happening in the moment. Like the cameraman couldn't catch it because he didn't know that it was going to go off the cliff. So that's the way I justify any discrepancies in that one.
But I think that also works for the theme of Bond finding himself in this film. It's a discovery.
100%.
Forster's listening to this episode like, that's what I was going for. Good job, guys.
Cook, preach.
You know, for a film that was going through a writer's strike, I think there's actually a really good amount of t-shirt quotes in this. So, Ross, what is your t-shirt quote?
Well, I mentioned one earlier is there's something horribly efficient about you. It was pretty good, but I have to go. My main t-shirt quote that I actually kind of want on a t-shirt now is you only need one shot. Make it count.
And that's mine too.
Yeah.
I love that. And honestly, I forgot that line was even in the film until this viewing. And I was like, wow, that's a great line for a t-shirt. I'm with you.
Yeah.
A lot of location too. I love You and I had a mutual friend. Green sneering. Sounds like he just lost another one. When he hears a gunshot, he thinks Camille's just been killed. I don't think the dead care about vengeance. That's good.
That's a good one.
I never laughed to M at the end. Oh, great. Oh, the one that I'm like, good line in the midst of a writer's strike. So Mr. White's like, we have people everywhere. So later on, M's reacting to it. And we've got people everywhere. You expect it to be hyperbole. Florists use that expression.
I was going to call that out. I love that line so much. And just her performance, you know, we haven't spoken about Judi Dench enough, but she's just so great as them. And her performance in that scene where you could tell she's just frazzled by this person she's known for years as one of her bodyguards has turned out to be a traitor.
I love her finding Christmas presents she gave him in the play. That's what I'm saying. Under 2 hours, everybody's given a little something to do. And that's good writing, even in the middle of a writer's strike and all this strife happening.
Oh man,
and again, a great gag, a great laugh right there. She's looking at an ashtray she gave him. And I gave him this for Christmas. And Bond just goes, I don't think he smoked. And so she shatters it on the floor. It made me laugh.
Two other lines I love is when Beam says, yeah, you're right. We should just deal with nice people. Another Bond line that I love, I mean, it's in Spanish, but when he goes to the hotel with Fields, he's like, we are teachers on sabbatical and we won the lottery.
yes, dude, that is my favorite too. That is so Bond's character right there. He's just like, I would rather stay in a morgue. Screw this place. I'll come up with something, okay? And that is a great line. We're teachers on sabbatical and we just won the lottery. I love it.
Okay, Greg, Oscar nomination.
All right, so Ross, warning. Sometimes I'll do real categories, then sometimes I'll make up my own because it's anything goes here. So, best editing, best cinematography, best direction, best car chase, best old dog learning a new trick because that's what the Bond franchise was always good at. So, Born Identity could do this, so can we. So I think they did a good job adapting to its style.
My Oscar nomination, going from what Andreas said earlier in this pod, is he said, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Andreas, because you're in post. I couldn't find the sound mixer. It might be the sound mixers Oscar. Okay, I don't know if I'm robbing that man, but I went to supervising sound editor Eddie Joseph because the sound design in this movie is so on point, dude. All the engine sounds of the Aston Martin, of the boat, of the planes, every gunshot, things breaking, glass shattering, and everything. It's the sound is so just good in this movie. The sound design, I loved it.
That's awesome. I love that you're calling out the sound because, yeah, the sound design in this film is incredible. And just for anyone who doesn't know, so supervising sound editors oversee all of sound. They kind of create the first initial pass of a project, and then it's the re-recording sound mixers who actually do it on the mix stage. So the supervisors are kind of overseeing and making sure they get all the ADR, they get all the sound effects, they work with a team to build that, and then it's the re-recording mixers who do it on the stage.
Okay, so whoever that was and who I missed in my half-assed internet research.
No. Who you're calling out? No, who you're calling out is fine. Look, it takes a team. Okay. As you know, in stunts, it takes a team. Like there's so much effort and great talent that goes into all these films and projects that calling anyone out is a great thing. My Oscar nomination is going to go to Giancarlo Giannini for Best Supporting Actor. Okay. He's only in a handful of scenes, but there are very few actors that have a natural tendency to charm you on screen without doing much. You're just taken in with them. Even if they aren't the lead, they can steal the show. And Giancarlo is one of those actors, and he's utilized well here. I
was this close to having him be the guy who's having the most fun too, because he really did have fun with this role again.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen him pop up in some of the other Craig films. And I think Greg, you already mentioned this. I love that in Casino Royale, he's falsely accused of betraying his trusted friend Bond. And then here in Quantum, he's actually betrayed by a trusted friend while helping Bond. And two Lina Wertmüller films I want to call out, Swept Away and Seven Beauties. I took an Italian film class when I studied abroad in Tuscany, actually close to Siena. So it was fun to see the horse races in this film. But Seven Beauties was the film that introduced him to me, and I've been a fan ever since.
Yeah, he's right up there. Mathis is right up there with the great Bond allies like Karen Bay.
Oh, Karen Bay. Yes.
You know, yep. And so, yeah, definitely. I really liked him a lot, too. Yeah.
I am not the biggest Hannibal, the Silence of the Lambs sequel fan, but his sequence, I wish that was the whole movie. I think he's great in it. And also, there's a Giallo, The Black Belly of the Tarantula, where he plays a cop who's like completely exhausted. Awesome Giallo, and like he anchors the whole thing. He's great. Oh, he's a fantastic actor. That's a great call out.
Charisma, man.
So something we want to try out with our guests is to offer them a category for the film. Ross, what is your category?
It's called The License to Kill. And I bestow it onto both of you, my guys. Okay, you now have a license to kill. You can eliminate any one character in this movie. Who's it going to be?
That guy with the mop from the earlier shot, because he's in the background ruining the whole thing. No. Okay, Ross is telling me I cannot legally use the guy with the broom from earlier. All right. I had a backup in mind. Just in case. This is not a knock on them as an actor. They are a tremendous performer. Rory Kinnear's Bill Tanner. I just feel like they get a little lost in the shot. Like they're there for exposition. They're there to flesh out the M scenes. I understand that. I don't think they're really given anything to do, whereas every other minor character we've named has been given a little bit of business.
That's fair.
I think I might anger some people with mine, but this is legitimately one thing I really did not like in this film. S. Fields. Let me be clear. I have no issue with the way she died. I love the homage to the death of Jill Masterson in Goldfinger. I don't mind that she died. What bothers me about her character is that she purely exists to sleep with Bond and then die. She provides nothing to the plot. I don't think you need her scenes. You can cut them out and nothing changes with the plot. You can blame the writer's strike, but I don't buy that. Even in 2008, I thought we would have been past showing women as just props. Now, look, if you need to keep it, if you need to have another Bond girl, which I understand and I'm all for, then just make her a capable agent. Then they can have a playful fight or tussle in the hotel as Bond tries to escape, showing how much of a match they are. And in the heat of the moment, that's when lust takes over. And then when she's found dead later with the same great homage covered in oil, you then know that Quantum is a formidable group because they took out this agent. You actually don't even need to change a lot of the current dialogue to make that work. I really wish they would have done that because the way it is now, it's just an insult to strong women.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that's the most sad is them not saying her name is Strawberry Fields. Like Fields just Field. No, it's Strawberry Fields, man. Like give her kind of a cool name. It's a Beatles reference, you know. Come on.
Yeah, you really don't find out until you see it in the end credits.
Yep. In the credits, I know.
They were trying to make it a joke, but I don't think it worked.
Yeah. I think I got you both beat, boys. I think you're going to agree with me on this one. Most useless character in this entire movie, and I would argue the worst all-time henchman in the James Bond series, Elvis. And that's when you said mop earlier. I thought you meant from his little toupee falling off. When he gets pushed down the stairs by Agent Strawberry Fields. He's the most useless henchman, dude. I feel like his character got lost in the cut because he literally serves no purpose in the story. Even at the end, when he's wearing his little neck brace from his fall, you know, Matthew Almeric has to grab his arm and raise his gun for him and be like, stay here. And then he immediately gets blown up. He doesn't even get a shot off at Bond.
That's like, a really good flag. That feels like a character that was like there's 3 more beats that we just never got to see. Like
yeah. And this, hey, there's nothing wrong because we've seen it time and time again where it's just a tall, blonde, German scary guy, or it's a mute muscle man with a bowler hat or some metal thumbs or something. We've seen that, and I get them not wanting to use that. You can use someone who's very slight, like a perfect example is Vargas in Thunderball. But if you're going to have a Vargas, make him creepy. You know, they gave him that one scene because Vargas was pretty useless too. But then they gave him that one scene where he says, Vargas does not drink. Vargas does not smoke. What do you do, Vargas? And he just kind of turns away, like, you know, like, I kill people for pleasure, you know, like, make him like that. Make him a creep that likes to, like, you know, cut people's toenails off and keep him on a necklace or something, you know, make him memorable. Just have him be a useless guy.
You're right. I think he just needed one moment, even keeping all his entire performance the same. He just needed one moment to show us that there's some, like, oh, this is the reason Green keeps him around. He could be useless the entire time, but if there's that one specific moment that he shows the audience, that would have been great.
Like, guys, explain to me what that beat is when they're at the opera and there's that other henchman and he locks eyes with Elvis for a minute and then Elvis completely like gets embarrassed and like backs down and looks away. What is that? What were they trying to develop with that shot?
I wonder, like, if there's some sort of backstory where, like, he's Green's nephew or something that he has to keep around. You know, like that would help explain it too. Like if he's like, if it wasn't for your,
funny.
Yeah, if it wasn't for your sister, I'd get rid of you already. Something like that.
All right, Real Demers fans, release the Elvis cut on Twitter, and we're gonna find out what happened to this character.
All this will be revealed in Casino Royale, the whole bloody affair.
You just put in Elvis scenes? That's it? That's the only new?
Yeah.
It's going to be an anime Elvis scene.
We're just awkwardly applying for a job at Quantum through his aunt. Yeah.
I know this kid. I'll take him on. Put him on the water. Put him on the water job. Put him on the Bolivia job, in the water one with Green. Just put him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ends up being Lashiv's nephew.
You know, the poor guy's uncle just died. Let's toss him a bone. You know.
Right.
Oh, amazing. Okay. We always like to end on a crew shout out. Greg, who would you like to shout out?
I'm going with John R. Brown, who is the lead data wrangler. They also worked on The Mummy Returns, Wonder Woman, several of the Harry Potter films, Ghost Rider, and Dread.
Awesome. I want to shout out the sound mix technician, Doug Cooper, who is now a fantastic re-recording mixer who I had the pleasure of working with on a project.
Oh.
He's a very delightful person, and I can't wait to work with him again. Other credits include Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and The Running Man.
Very nice, guys. Very nice. And Doug, that Oscar's yours, by the way. I messed that up earlier. Now, mine is a man named Simon Crane. He is a stuntman, stunt coordinator extraordinaire. He coordinated Goldeneye, and as well as doubling Timothy Dalton and The Living Daylights. And I was on the set of a Will Smith movie that was called Hancock back in 2007. And he was there. He was a stunt coordinator. And who shows up? Gary Powell. And I was there when this happened, which was really cool. Gary Powell was there to recruit Simon to fly to Panama City to shoot the boat chase for Quantum of Solace.
Wow.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it was really cool. And I got to I went, Gary, is there a car chase in the new one? He goes, mate, it's going to be a banger, mate. And I'm just like, yeah. I gave him a high five and I go, I can't wait. But dude, that boat chase is awesome. And I know that, Live and Let Die and The World Is Not Enough always steal the thunder. Even Moonraker, when it comes to boat chases in the Bond series, not enough is said about that boat chase in Quantum of Solace. And that was Simon Crane that put that together. So shout out to you, Simon.
You know, Greg, I didn't know your feelings on this film. And Ross, I know you and I had kind of been avoiding talking about this for the last couple of weeks because we wanted to save it for the podcast. But I'm genuinely so happy that we all seem to be on the same page with this film. I think it's a highly underrated Bond film that not enough people talk about. The boat chase. Nobody talks about that, but they should. And the same with the plane sequence, sure, minus some CGI, but the plane sequence is a great action scene. Even with the writer's strike, I'm really, really impressed with what they were able to put out. Again, there's some issues like we discussed already, but I think this is a really great Bond film.
With some of the Brosnan's films, like World Is Not Enough, I love the idea of The World Is Not Enough, but the drama doesn't match kind of everything else that's happening. Like this idea of like him falling in love with this woman, the betrayal, all that jazz. I don't quite. I like the film. I'm a Bond fan. We're here talking about it, but like I don't know if it cashes the check that it writes. Same thing with Die Another Day. I think you can do so much material with Bond captured at the beginning. And these are movies that don't pay it off. Quantum of Solace pays off the dramatic beats they set up better than a lot of the other films in the franchise. And I don't know why it doesn't get the credit.
The one thing of The World Is Not Enough that's a glaring omission is one of the most important story beats of that movie is left on the cutting room floor. And I know they shot this. I have no idea why they didn't include it. The whole briefing to Bond is protect Electra, don't sleep with her. And you're thinking, okay, he's just going to protect her and he's doing a very good job of avoiding, keeping her at arm's length, being her bodyguard. And then all of a sudden they go from the casino back to her house and they immediately slam cut to them in bed. And I'm just like, wait, did I miss something? And apparently there was a scene shot where he's, again, doing the Bond thing. One of the coolest Bond things is to sit in the dark in your suit with your silenced pistol, waiting for whoever is going to come. And she comes down the staircase, like wrapped in a silky sheet and is like, hey, come up here. And her whole superpower is using her feminine wilds to make men do her bidding. That's her power as a villain. I wanted to see her do that to Bond and lure him up that staircase and to break his orders. You know what I mean? And they left it out just to get tangential on you.
That's a shame. Yeah. Cause that adds so much.
We had touched on how On Her Majesty's Secret Service was initially disliked by the general public in the public consciousness. Only as film history has gone on, has that movie gained popularity and gained appreciation. I think the exact same thing is true here. I think as time goes on, more people are going to say, yes, it's got its faults. Yes, there's some things like that are left hanging. Is it a perfect film? Absolutely not. But for what they were working with, it's just a raw, fast, supercharged revenge story that really has to be taken as a double feature with Casino Royale. Because if you have never seen Casino Royale and don't know who Vesper is, you're going to be very confused throughout this entire movie. But so it's very much a companion piece. but I think time will judge it a little more fondly for what it is, as just a fast-paced, action-heavy Bond film.
Well said. Ross, thank you again for being here. It was so great to chat this film. Is there another 007 film that you feel might need some real deeming?
I actually think, you guys, we touched on it earlier in the conversation. I think it's For Your Eyes Only. I think For Your Eyes Only, a lot of people, they say, oh, Spy Who Loved Me, oh, Live and Let Die, or, one of the other Roger Moores. I think it is highly underrated, and I think it would much benefit from some expert real deeming.
Right. You twisted our arm, Ross. We're in. You got us.
Ross, where can people follow you, and do you have any exciting projects coming up you want to share?
I do have a social media account. I'm on Instagram. You can follow me at Sharpie1. I do have an upcoming project that I'm very excited about. It's an action comedy. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's a new Cameron Diaz movie called Bad Day. I really hope people are going to get a kick out of it when it comes out next year.
Oh,
that's great.
Yeah, that's exciting. We're definitely going to check that out, and we'll remind our followers to check it out when it drops. Thank you again, Ross. This was so much fun.
I'm really honored to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, and especially since you don't even listen to the podcast, which is weird. No, I'm just kidding.
Not true. Not true. I've listened to many episodes. I listened to Super Mario's episode just recently. Fantastic.
Well, Ross, pleasure to finally meet you, and thank you. This was great.
Dude, likewise, Greg. Likewise. It's just great to hear all you guys' knowledge, and it's also great to have a podcast that's hosted by two guys that are within the industry. You guys know the business, and so, you got a legitimate take on things, and so I really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Deemers. If you like what you heard, please leave a like, follow, or review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those go a long way to help us reach others who might enjoy listening. If you want to reach out, maybe give us your 007 films that you feel need redemption, email us at realdeemers@gmail.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. Our music is by Adolfo Delanoy. You can follow him on Instagram at Adolfo Delanoy. Thanks again, and stay safe.